Somebody said always bet on Duke, and I went all in, man. Let's make this happen. Duke can't die.
The game wasn't very good.
There's a lot of filler content in Duke Nukem Forever story mode.
With a 15-year development cycle, there was no way the game was going to live up to any amount of hype, justified or not.
It's a dusty, muddled experience.
There's a ton of people, myself included, who are dying to know more about it. So I think giving people like that exactly what they want, I think is not much of a risk at all.
Metroid Other M is the biggest atrocity to ever grace the Metroid franchise.
Other M is mediocre, but as a Metroid game, it's bad.
I'd say we're playing a dead game walking, but with bugs like this, it's probably using a mobility scooter.
Halo 5's actual campaign gameplay is, regardless of context, absolute poo-poo.
And so when I'm waiting 5 years for a game where it's completely up in the air whether or not it'll be good, I end up longing for the days where shit is constantly being flung at the wall. Because hey, eventually some of them stuck.
Nothing makes me think about the early 2010s like all of my favorite series becoming terrible and embarrassing and dead.
And I didn't really have too many expectations for the game, and yet I was still disappointed and let down by it.
You've probably been there before. Massively hyped up for a game, searching for any news on it, constantly watching and rewatching the trailers for it, counting down the days till you can have it in your hands.
Disappointed!
And if you somehow haven't felt the weight of disappointment hit you like a sack of bricks before, then consider yourself fortunate, because it's all too common in video games, in both creation and consumption, to have a strong tendency to overdo it when it comes to the build-up of a game release. Some games go for the lengthy E3 interview approach, lots of sit-down conversations. Some have in-depth trailers explaining the process of making something. Some have ARGs that encourage strange activities. Curiously, however, this build-up often doesn't pay off. Plenty of times games have suffered the massive misfortune of landing flat on their face, much to the heartbroken disappointment of fans. More curiously is that despite this consistent trend of disappointments, my fellow gamers can't seem to learn their lesson. We can't help it, can we? We just love the rush, the excitement, the build-up, that delicious hype train. Personally, in my life, I felt the crippling blow of disappointment with games like Assassin's Creed 3, BioShock Infinite, Metal Gear Solid, The Phantom Pain. But on the less personal side, there's games that are way more popular, way more well known for being massive disappointments, such as Cyberpunk 2077, Fallout 76, Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts. I mean, the list could truly go on. Overall, disappointment's a feeling that none of us love. In terms of science, it's legitimately damaging to your physical and mental health, but eventually, we gotta learn when to say enough is enough. Today, I'm gonna try to teach you how to increase those gamer defenses. Put on some armor, taper one's expectations. Choo-choo, the hype train's rolling out of the station. All aboard, everybody. I'm the hairiest hair, and this is the art of tapering your expectations. But first, a little disclaimer. A lot of what I have to say will be cynical and overall super lame in nature, but in no way am I attempting to promote the ruining of fun. This is mostly a dumb way of explaining my own ideology, and if you think it sounds like the opposite of a good time, then just ignore me. I more so intend to be speaking to the ones who find themselves in a position of disappointment more often than enjoyment when waiting for the release of a game. So, how does one taper their expectations?
Slow it down. Slow it way down.
The first thing you gotta do is you gotta have low expectations. Even if you can't get them low, find that nugget of cynicism deep within you and hold on to it tight. In many situations, it may do you better to not expect much of something, assume that it can't deliver on everything it promises, than it would be to do the alternative. Maybe even convince yourself that every game will be 30 to 60% as cool as its advertisements make it seem. This way, at worst, you feel like you were right. And at best, you were wrong and you got a super cool game out of it. That's a win-win in my book.
What? I see this as an absolute win.
But I'm gonna give you one strong precaution. Especially here on the modern age of the internet, you gotta be careful. Don't let your cynicism run wild. There's no need to ruin other people's fun or derail their hype train just because you're trying to keep yours on the more calm side. The reasoning for putting up this defense is to protect you from the overbearing weight of disappointment, not to be used as a weapon to cut down others. Secondly, stop listening to interviews and discussions on the game. Like, seriously. The gaming industry is full of dudes who will lie to you, even when you have all the evidence in the world to prove them wrong. So naturally, if a game isn't out, the talking heads of the company will tell you anything you want to hear. They're gonna make stuff up. They're gonna generally pretend like they know things that they have no way of knowing. They're just gonna say whatever it is they need to say to get you to buy. That's their job, after all. I don't even hate them for it. So just stop listening. Don't pay attention to interviews. Don't latch onto small details or some small interesting wording. Just as well, the hype train's full of many individuals, and plenty of those individuals are just as willing to speculate and buy into rumors. Rumors that are created by other members of the hype train, no matter their reasoning. Your fellow gamer dude bros aren't immune to compromise.
These guys are compromised. The little bleeps and bloops you trust for info. I can't trust them anymore.
In fact, while we're at it, just stop listening to rumors overall. They've got to be the worst possible source of information, and yet some people invest a lot of mental energy into them, buying into some of the most fan-servicey of concepts. If it's a rumor, it's fine to look at it and nod saying, yeah, that'd be nice. But investing a lot of dopamine into something that one guy on Reddit said is not going to do you any good. But if you can't trust these most exciting sources of hype, the interviews, the rumors, one guy on Reddit, then who? What can you look forward to? Instead, try latching on to something more tangible. Gameplay trailers can sometimes be full of bullshot, a term thrown around when a game trailer is trying to convince you that it's gameplay, but it's very clearly not. You can tell by the way that the camera moves. It moves in ways that no player with a controller would ever move. Gameplay is often simulated, suspiciously scripted, perfect. Or my favorite one, the one where they have a guy come up live on stage with a microphone playing with other people. That one's so funny to me. It always gets me. But recently in gaming, gameplay trailers are actually far easier to pull off than they once were, meaning companies are a little more likely to invest in them, and hopefully be a little more honest with them. But always be on the lookout for that little subtitle that says, not actual gameplay. That part's really important. My last trick is just forget about it.
Forget about it!
This will be difficult for most of you, I know. But trust me, if you master this one, no one can hurt you. No hype train can derail. No expectations can be transformed into disappointment. You become a gaming god. This is a master technique developed by the gamer monks of old. They would track up mountains, living in isolation for months, sometimes even years, completely unaware that those sweet games they've been looking forward to not only have a release date, but they're coming out soon. And luckily, we can learn from these gamer monks of old. We can take their techniques for ourselves. The greatest thing I've ever done for myself is this exact tactic. I don't watch trailers. I don't look at info. I even forget about games releasing until they're right at my doorstep. The result has been a completely free and sound mind, as it means I'm not constantly looking for something to fill that void between now and the next game release. Instead, the game just falls into my lap and I meet it with a surprised look. And you might say, so the best way to get hype is to just not be hype? And no, I would say that it's more akin to something that I'm going to call a new type of train. Look right over here. Instead of the hype train, it's the surprise hype train. The surprise hype is my favorite tactic that I've ever accidentally discovered for myself. And I can explain it with an analogy. The cash in the dryer. Have you ever washed pants that maybe had a few dollars in them? And whether you find the money sitting there in the dryer when you open it, or you find the money in your pants the next time you put it on, either way, surprise. Turns out you had money the whole time and you had no idea. But in a way, it still feels like you've gained money. It was always there, but now it feels more special because you completely forgot about it. Maybe it's just me, but when a bigger game is coming out soon, I used to have the tendency, and still kind of do, to not start or even continue any big game I had still yet to finish. I didn't want to start one thing only to interrupt it with another, but strangely what this led to was a weird net negative. I wouldn't invest more time in these games I enjoyed and instead would sit around twiddling my thumbs, trying to find something to play as I was stalling for time until the next big release. But no matter how much I stalled, I was too busy thinking about that next big game. It was almost impossible for me to enjoy what I already had. In the end, this was a completely negative experience, unfair to both games. I was building up expectations in anticipation for the next game and disregarding the current one. So now we refer back to the cash in the dryer. During that period where the money is lost in a pocket somewhere, when I forget about having that money entirely, I'm no longer relying on it. I don't walk around thinking, I still have $20 somewhere. Instead, I wisely spend and use my money that I know I have, not the one that's out of my mind. I personally do the same thing with video games. games, I oftentimes will pre-order them. Or if you're not a fan of pre-ordering, and that's fine, I understand, then I oftentimes just don't think about a game, don't really look at anything, and then when it's coming around, marketing, if they're doing their job, will let you know that, hey, it's coming soon, and now you can go, oh wow, really, that's right around the corner? Sweet. And so now, instead of trying to fill that void from game to game with something, trying to find something to distract you while you're waiting for a game to come out, instead, you're able to play a game at your own pace, get through a backlog as you need to, enjoy the games you have rather than focusing on the ones you don't have. With this mentality, you always gain, you never really feel like you're missing something. Overall, my big thing is that while the rush of being excited and anticipating something ahead is a genuine thrill for everyone, I think it often leads to far more pain than it's worth. In today's gaming landscape, video games release buggy, unpolished, unfinished. And while this should probably make us ask what exactly is a AAA game, what are we paying for? The better question, or at least the more simple question, is why do we do this to ourselves? Well, I definitely think that everyone here in our modern corporate capitalism world should be speaking with their wallet by not purchasing games from a company that refuses to work on its major issues. I think that we also need to hold ourselves accountable at times. When games release that don't meet our specific expectations, a lot of gamer boys and girls are keen to jump to social media and go on review sites to bomb and lambaste the game for not being what we wanted it to be. But should we not look at a game based on the vision and the actual product rather than the lofty ambitions of the talking heads that tried to hype us up to make sure we spent all of our big bucks on it? Look at the people behind the scenes making the game instead of the people in front of the camera telling you buy content, buy content, buy content. I definitely think that this is a realm of nuance and there's a lot of ways to judge and criticize a game, but I don't think it's a controversial question to ask, can we not review bomb a game just because it did something different from our expectations? And while I'm criticizing the gaming audience, I got one more thing I'm gonna lay out here. I wish I could convince everyone to change their mind on this. I'll try to be real quick, but I'm gonna talk about delaying a game. Delaying a game's release, especially in the shadow of our modern times, is something that continuously is looked down upon, and I don't understand. If the hype train is a literal vehicle, it's like being told that the track suddenly got several hours longer. And while I think plenty of people are able to live with it and enjoy the ride, there's a massive vocal audience who can't get on board with delays. To me, this is a subsequent result of the damaging anticipation I spoke of. I don't think it's controversial, nor bold, though some would disagree, for me to say delays are always a good thing. Insert the quote from Miyamoto. But it baffles me every time that when a game is delayed, doing so under the promise that the game will be improved and polished a little more before release, folks still groan and complain because they have to wait. Aside from being entitled and generally annoying, it's paradoxical. And most times I find that the ones who groan about a delay are the ones who would also shout about a game being basically unplayable due to bugs. I think overall, people just need an excuse to whine and complain, so they latch onto anything that they can make a fuss about. But still, I think making this kind of fuss sets a bad example and sets up even more bad expectations from consumers. In contrast, I do wish everyone would go for the Nintendo approach. The Nindo. In contrast, I do wish developers would go for the Nintendo approach of not talking about a game until it's ready to ship in only a few months, but unfortunately, investors aren't often crazy about that idea, thus why we live in the world that we do. In conclusion, if you know you're already sold on something, don't give it too much thought until it's here, until it's in your lap. If you need to be sold on something, then pay a little attention to the trailers, understand the game on a comfortable level, but don't be fooled by the snake oil tactics of game companies. Try to keep your assumptions and complaints to a minimum until the game releases. And always remember, if something sounds too good to be true, that's probably because it is. Welcome to the aftermath. Welcome to the outro. It's me, the real guy, Hairiest Hair. This is also post-editing hair. I fully edited the video, and personally I don't think it was all that great, but it is number 2 in a series of 3 videos that I'm trying to make and put out all at once. If you enjoyed it, even a little bit, consider hopping over to my Patreon. For just $1 a month, you get access to little monthly update videos that I'm doing. I'm also going to upload outtakes and stuff from future videos and past videos. I'm even considering taking videos that I've completely scrapped and uploading as far as I made it in the process, just uploading those straight to Patreon. Patreon now has the ability to upload directly to them, so I feel like I could just go nuts with that one. But even if you're not looking to give any money to me and you still enjoyed some stuff and you want to keep up with me, obviously check out Twitter, Instagram, assuming Twitter still exists by the time this goes up. It's up in the air right now, so that'll let you know when I'm recording this part. I will say this in the outro, I don't want to be long-winded, I don't want to be wong-linded, but I wasn't planning on using the little animated character for this video. I had actually already recorded this video and almost fully edited it, and then when I made the Ranting Rabbit video with the animated character, I realized I liked that a lot more than my own face, so I switched things around, and I don't know what I'm going to do in the future. I think I'm just going to keep hopping between the animated one and me. The only issue with that is I know that if I was a viewer and I liked one more than the other, that would start to cause a problem. So I don't know what I'm going to do. If you enjoy this kind of rambling nonsense about I don't know what I'm doing, trust me, you're going to love the Patreon, because that's all I do over there. The next video, I've sprinkled some hints into what it is here and there. It's probably already uploaded and ready for you to see if you're seeing this, but I have not begun working on it. It's the only one out of this series that I haven't really worked on, I haven't touched, so here's hoping it goes well. I'm gonna actually start doing that right now, so I'm gonna cut this off. I'll see you later. Thanks for watching. Do all the stuff. You know what to do. You've watched YouTube before. I'll catch you in the next one. Catch you down the road. Be excellent to each other. See you there.